Hello, everyone. I know that you are not accustomed to my voice being on speed paints, with the exception of one Huntress picture I did last year. But I was asked to start talking more in some of my speed paints. While I don't think I'll be doing it for all of my speed paints, at least maybe the Twitch emotes will get voiceovers to start. I guess a couple of the things I'd like to touch on for this video is my process when doing Twitch emotes. It doesn't stray too far away from when I'm doing bigger works or commission works. My full pieces usually start with some sort of base sketch, as you can see here, line arting in some occasions. With bigger pieces, I rather work off of base colors than going in, line arting the whole piece, and calling it a day. There's occasions where stylistically I'll go and do that. I have one comic-like piece coming out shortly. But there's many different ways to approach this. When I start with a Twitch commission, after figuring out what the person wants, I book it to the reference pictures, and where I go to get certain pictures varies. Most of the time I'll go to Google, but another portion of that time goes to DeviantArt. DeviantArt is great for reference pictures for just about anything. I like to keep my Twitch emotes very cutesy, I guess you could say kawaii or chibi. Those are really good keywords to put in when you're looking for reference photos, especially for Twitch art, because it tends to be more comic-y in a way, or cartoon-like, and that's for many reasons, and one of the main reasons is because thicker lines show up better on smaller pictures. Your emotes get shrunk down quite small. I believe the smallest is 28 by 28 pixels. That is very small, and so a large portion of your work is going to be shrunk. And with that shrinking, you want to keep the integrity of those beautiful thick lines, especially on the outline of your character. Not so much on the inside, and I'll get to that a little later. So I guess the major question is, where do you put your thick lines versus where do you not put your thick lines? This varies for every single artist, and I'm not telling you how to do something, but this is how I do it. I keep everything outside that is touching the background thick, and then I keep what I consider pieces thick as well. So what is something that's going to stand out in your emote? For the one that you're currently watching, this is the love emote. The piece in here is really the heart, so the heart should be thick to emphasize that. Again, that's just my logic, that's the rule that I go by. I've seen plenty of artists not do it this way and still have amazing emotes. I also will keep the facial features relatively thick, so you'll see the outline of the eyes, the nose, and the mouth is very thick, or I guess the line weight is heavier. But talking more about the thin lines, what you can see in this current piece that is thinner or not as line heavy is the tuft of fur right next to the heart and above the paw. The paw itself is also a little thin on the line, but it looked alright when I shrunk it down, so I didn't go back and make it incredibly thick. In general, the paw is thinner because it's inside the picture, so everything on the inside that isn't expressive or a major part of the emote gets a thinner line. Also, the black from the side of the panda will help to accentuate that that is the hand and not, you know, an extension of the torso or something. There is that sharp contrast, but that's with color, and I will get into color next. I'll backtrack slightly for a moment before getting into color, just because the image that's on the screen right now is a very rough sketch of me figuring out how I want to do the high emote. This, spoiler alert, becomes a flop, but I want to put it in here because it's a very important part of the process. Sometimes, and maybe more often than not, there are large portions of your piece that need to either be changed or you need to start fresh altogether. It's important to see that you can dedicate time to this and look at it and think it's going somewhere, so you push, which is what I did when I started to add base colors to this piece. But if you feel that your piece is just not making the cut, scrap it and start from scratch. I actually showed this piece to the person who commissioned me and said that we might be able to tweak it a bit and use it almost as a derp base, but we'll see later. For now, this is a flop and didn't make the final cut, but it's important to see that this is part of the process. Not every artist goes from start to finish perfectly. It takes a lot of practice and time, and it's sometimes a mental battle, but you will get through it. So now the moment we've all been waiting for, color. Color has so much to do with the integrity of your piece and how well your piece can be received. For emotes specifically, I like stark contrast. That means you're getting a very rich green, a very bright green, right next to a white or a black. It is completely opposing in the department of here's one color and here's one that is nowhere similar to that color. So all the colors that you see around the heart that was in the last picture and the bamboo that will be in the next picture all combat each other. Nobody's fighting for the color green. Nobody's fighting to be a close match to any other color. Maybe in the shading and highlighting department, but that's a whole nother story. So what is your centerpiece? How are you going to portray that color? How are you going to make that color stand out? Because that's also going to help your line art. Line art gets its own color as well. My line art does not stay one color the whole time. The heart that was in the last one gets a dark green outline just to emphasize and make it stand alone from the rest of the piece. The eyes get another color as well. But the rest of it stays with a deep black line. That's okay to do. I've seen many artists play with that idea differently, and they all do it very well. This is how I do it. I don't believe in having line art be one color. I think it looks better when the color is complementing where it is outlining, if that makes sense. We'll backtrack slightly to the shading department because this is also very important. Normally, the general rule, I don't know if it's the rule for everybody, but for me is take the main color that's in that area, darken it, and then that's my shade. Sometimes I apply that to darker colors, but when shading, which you'll see soon in this emote and the last, can be another color. Shading and highlighting can be another color. It doesn't have to be a brighter version of what you're working with or a darker version of what you're working with. For the white of this panda, I use like a glacial blue is what I'm going to call it, because when I was researching color combinations for drawing pandas, a lot of white gets complemented with a shade of a blue, like a light blue. So that's what I went with here, and when you pull away, it's important to pull away from your picture and look at it from a distance. You can still see it. It's just giving that complement, that shade that you need to push the piece a little further. So don't think that, oh, this highlight has to be a brighter color of my base color or a darker color of my base color for shading. It can be another color, and sometimes having it be another color pushes your piece that much further. I think the last thing I want to talk about is breaking all the rules that I have just gone over. One of the ways that I break the rules is by putting highlights, especially on the eyes, outside of the line art. Doing this and doing it right makes your piece look so good. If you put a eye highlight that's halfway between the line art of the eye and the actual pupil or iris, that can help too. One of my highlights on the eyes is actually like a quick drawn line through the pupil and iris, and it breaks out of the line of where the iris would be. It is another way to push further, and that's what I try to do. I'm by no means a professional, but the more that I keep doing Twitch emotes and the more that I keep learning this style, that I'm doing, the more I'm able to push myself. I'll go into one more thing to wrap this up. What you may have seen is that I go back and I reference my pictures a lot. It's good to reference yourself. If you did something that you're proud of, or you want to keep your set in the same general mindset, it's good to reference yourself. I will reference colors for this panda set from the original piece that I did to help make sure that I am keeping the integrity of the set. It all looks like it's supposed to be together. There is some sort of correlation between every piece. So if this particular person wants me to make more pandas or more emotes, they will look the same because I will reference those original pieces. It's not plagiarism, it's not anything to be upset with or like tabooed. It's not to be frowned upon. It's good to reference yourself. It's one of the ways that we can help learn and get color combinations down. There's so many benefits to it. Please reference yourself. But that's enough rambling, and hopefully if people are interested, I can get into more topics. If you have questions on what I do, I can do tutorial videos, more in-depth videos. I have no problems with that. If you're interested in getting a Twitch piece for me, or perhaps a bigger piece, maybe down the road, but definitely for a Twitch piece, if you're interested, I have a Discord. You are free to leave a comment below and I will get back to you. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this change of pace, and see you in the next video.